Last time, on Fun Panthers, the party split up and took the first steps of their various plans for the city. Sonny began to build his cover for infiltrating the Skinny Walkers. He adopted the moniker of Johnny Brass Knuckles and headed towards the market to strong-arm one of the businesses the party learned was under the Walkers' protection. Taking money and several desserts from a local Bear Claw establishment, Johnny made his move, and soon after, a group of Walker enforcers arrived to see what he was trying to pull in their territory. Despite a tense start, Johnny actually managed to confuse the band long enough to convince them to take him to their boss, Mr. Walker himself, at the Walker's casino. Mr. Walker, it turned out, was surprisingly receptive to the idea and was open to Johnny's inclusion into their ranks. The only thing was, he had to prove himself. You see, it turns out that the Walkers had a bit of a rat problem. Another member of the gang, named Rodrigo the Squealer. If Johnny wanted in, he had to deal with Rodrigo. Now it turns out that Johnny had no qualms about this, and they all welcomed him aboard and mentioned that tomorrow, they'd have a job for him. Meanwhile, on the other side of town, Artek, Zeka, Kezi, and Annette all moved towards the Arkrun's hideout in the basement of the Liberal Arts College. And while there, Artek and Zeka negotiated with the Arkrun for his assistance in the coming rescue mission, going back and forth over what the Arkrun and Menagerie had to gain from it. Ultimately, it came down to a single point. The Arkrun needed some kind of assurance before he could promise any assistance, and tasked them with retrieving either a mere strange weapon or the cube from his office. But when pressed, he feigned ignorance over what either item could actually do. Artek and Zeka agreed, and the Arkrun promised that if they were able to accomplish this, he would help stoke the fight between the Walkers and the Weavesguard, as well as use the party as a bit of a distraction for his own heist of the Weavesguard's lockup while they broke out earnless. Before leaving, however, Kezia spoke briefly with the Arkrun alone, who only further repeated abuse towards her, and as she left, she felt this presence of magic overwhelm her. On confronting the Arkrun with it, he simply sidestepped the questioning, but just displayed more of his controlling tendencies to those present before she left with the rest of the party. As this was going on, Morak was continuing his experimentation with the psionic rooms he'd discovered, and was working towards better understanding their purposes. As he was doing this, however, he once again began to feel this subtle mental pressure exert itself onto his mind, and just this hunger for knowledge and information slowly creep into his thoughts. He was able to largely resist these influences, however, and was able to fully recreate one of the psionic runes. But as he completed them, for just a moment, he saw this hint of a purplish miasma appear and dissolve from the page that he was writing it onto, before stopping. Finally, as the day wound to a close, the party reformed to discuss their progress, meanwhile Kezia isolated herself on the rooftops for a bit to think. It wasn't long, however, before another figure joined her, Annette, and the two once again began to discuss the Arkrun and how he'd changed, how he'd never dare exert his magic so boldly. But now? The conversation drifted from topic to topic, Annette eventually asking what the party's goals would be for tomorrow. But her tone once again was cold and dismissive, something that Kezia picked up on. Kezia ultimately lied, doubling down on the story that they would be trying to locate the cube for the Arkrun, but signaled to Zeka to try dispelling magic on Annette. Zeka complied, but as he did so, it was not a traditional effect as for a spell. Annette gripped her head and collapsed to the ground as this purplish miasma drained from her eyes. She was alive, yes, but seemed unresponsive for the moment. And the spell that was broken, it reeked of psionics.